Okay, I'm probably not the face you expected to see up here. Dad's coming up in a minute, but I've been told that I've got to give you a bit of a 5 minutes overview of what a yoke is, because we read it, but do we truly understand it? If we don't have the context of what it is and what Jesus is talking about in those days, do we really understand the full implications of what Jesus is saying there? And while I was researching this, I so wanted to dive into all of those implications, all of those meanings and the whys, and unpack some of this. But I've been told, stick to the who, what, where, whys. What is a yoke? So hopefully by the end of this, we're all on the same page. Our verse today is Matthew 11, 28, 29, 30, that area. And I'll just read it out quickly. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So, a yoke, put simply, is a wooden beam that joins two animals, usually beasts of burden, so like your oxen or your horses, and they would pull something heavy like a plough. I think that's what most people would have seen or thought of, is a plough being drawn by two animals. It would take the power of two separate animals and turn them and join them into one driving force. Instead of one animal doing all of the work and the pulling and the drawing, the weight was spread across both. That way the work becomes lighter, not because the job is any easier, but because they were doing it together. That's why you will hear the term of being equally yoked, especially in Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 6:14, when it talks about not being unequally yoked to unbelievers. Farmers kept a special watch to make sure that the yoke was equal, because an unbalanced yoke would have one animal doing all of the work, and it would defeat the purpose. A yoke is usually used on animals in a field, and that's probably where Jesus' audience would have pictured it as well. But there were many other uses. Anywhere someone would need to join two animals to pull something, and they are even still used today in parts of the world. Some of the uses include carting goods, horse-drawn carriages. I know that my grandparents still remember the horse-drawn carriages. And I'm sure a few of our congregation here would remember the horse-drawn carriages. And in the logging industry, so that the horses could pull logs away to be processed. But the people of the city would have known what a yoke was as well, because before it even got to a field, a yoke had to be built to fit. It wasn't a one-size-fits-all. It had to be fit to the specific ox or horse. Otherwise, you'd get the weight problems that we talked about before. It's likely everyone would have known what a yoke was, and because they either saw it being made in the city or being used around the city or out in the field. One interesting fact is that probably the whole reason Jesus is even talking about a yoke in this verse is because it's possible that he could have worked on yokes. Being a carpenter's son, it's not implausible that he was part of the building process of making yokes. And so when he's talking to his followers in this passage, he's not using some unknown technology or reference or whatever. He's talking specifically about something that his followers would have known and that he would know very well. So to finish off, I just want to take a second and put ourselves in their shoes, or sandals, and just think about what the people at that time might have been thinking. What do their minds think of when they hear take my yoke upon you. The average Jew would definitely see an ox ploughing a field, but they might also see an invite to be joined to Jesus or God, just like two animals joined by a yoke. Their minds could also go down the idea of burdens. Jesus is offering an invitation to allow him to share our everyday burdens and also the burdens of the Jews as a whole. We know that the Jews, even throughout history, have always had burdens. They are no stranger to burdens. But your average Jew was not the only one who would have been there. The Pharisees would have been around there too, trying to catch Jesus out. So what might they have thought? Well, they might hear something like this. Instead of Jesus lifting their burdens or an invitation to be joined to God, they'd hear, take on my rules, my laws, my load, because it's an easier burden than what you've got at the moment. You see, the Pharisees believed that rules and laws is what God wanted, that deviating from the laws is what had got their ancestors into that whole 70 years exile. So they wanted to go back to the laws and got everyone following them. And then just to be double sure, quadruple checked and make sure everything was down pat, they added more laws on top of that, just to make double sure that this would never happen again. So when Jesus started talking about a different way, a different system, they could have not just seen it as a direct challenge to their system, but to their whole way of life, their authority, and their righteousness. So hopefully that's with that little bit of added context, we can better understand what Jesus is talking about in these verses and what his listeners heard. Because by understanding what he was saying then, maybe we can better understand what he's trying to tell us now. And with that, I'll hand over to Pastor Loren.
Hey, Brayden. I'm sure the church won't mind if that says that your father's proud of you. You just preached your first sermon. Thank you so much. Just a few other announcements before we move in. One is that it's that time of the year where we're ending up the old year and we're moving into a new year. And so this is my last sermon in this series, new series coming. Before I move to that, we're conscious that as of the 1st of July, there is a whole new lot of leaders coming into place in our church, new ministries happening, etc., with a changeover of officers. And so we need to make it very aware and say it very strongly that we need those of you who are facing children to do the AdSafe course. And the opportunity is this afternoon at 2:00. It's the easiest way to do it. Sometimes I leave it too late and I've got to do it on the computer and it takes me hours. This way is easy and you can walk out this afternoon knowing that you are accredited with your AdSafe course. So that's this afternoon, 2:00. Who needs to do it? Those of us who are facing kids, who are involved with kids in any way, we need to do it. In fact, I would go as far as to say that if you have a key to this church, I would encourage you to do it. Because it just means that this church can say to everyone that we're a safe space for people, a safe place, because I envision this building, I envision our church as a safe place for a dangerous message. That's the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I want to urge you to come back. We'll keep the air conditioners on and come back and enjoy the AdSafe program at 2:00. Something else that's on my mind, I'm just keeping on the clock, is that one of our beautiful people at our church who I've got to love dearly because you can never forget her when she comes to the door to shake your hand at the door, and that is Pat Walker has now been moved into, I just can't read the name of it, but it's a lodge, and it's Waminda. She's 315 Waminda. And she's been moved in there this week, and as you know, that would take stress in itself. But she's got COVID, and which means that Amanda can't go in there. It means her family can't go in there. She's on her own. And you know what Pat's like. All of us know what Pat would be. She'd be climbing the walls. On her own, she's only got the nursing staff. And so I want her to know, and I want those of you who are visiting her when she's able, and I want Amanda to know that we as a church love her and we as a church uphold her. I know we're running late for time for me to preach the sermonette, but I think let's move into groups of 2s and 3s and quickly send a dark prayer to heaven for Pat at this time. Let's pray as a church and hold her up as a church so she knows that her church is behind her. Let's move into 2s or 3s. A series on living the commands of Jesus. I'm at Kundula next week. I need to find someone to preach next Sabbath. If you are available, that would be great. I'm at Kundula, and then the next week's our first week in the new year. Brand new series for the next quarter. It's called God Speaks. In looking at the news around us in the last few weeks, we need to know that God is speaking to us. And how does God speak to his church? How does God speak to you? In looking at the state of even Christianity and where people are going to find religion and to find their Christian experience, we need to know very clearly how and when and what and why God speaks. And so we're doing a series on that. I think there's a time for this season, I think it's a season for it, that we need to be grounded in God and God's word and knowing how God speaks. So that's coming up, brand new series, first Sabbath in July. Thank you, Braden, for introducing us into the topic for the day. It's the another command of Jesus, the last command of Jesus, and I'm going to try and preach on that and bind our whole series of sermons together. Let's see how we go. So this is the last of the series. It's a close. The core truth of the Christian life is that it's not about good intentions. It's not about good intentions. It's about accepting the grace that is offered to us at the cross. That's the core of the Christian life. It's not about intending to come to church, intending to read the Bible, intending to love Jesus. It's about accepting the grace that is offered at the cross and making that personal in my everyday walk and life. An image or a metaphor is a powerful way to understand theology. And the need to make grace a part of our everyday life is brought home to us in none other than the picture that Jesus gives us himself, as Braden explained to us, of a yoke. Let's read this word again in Matthew 11, verse 28 to 30. Come to me, all ye labour and are heavy, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Have you ever felt Jesus' compassion with these words as you've read them yourself? Have you ever felt his compassion but never ever fully understood what he meant by when he said he wants you to take his yoke and why it wasn't going to be easy? Why it's going to be easy and light. Before this passage, in the context this passage is in, Jesus is talking to the crowds and he reveals to the crowds his divinity. He says he is from God. And he says these words that no one knows the Father except the Son. They are one and they are God. And he goes straight into the passage for the day. Come unto me, all you who are weary. Pretty bold statement to say, pretty strong to say that, hey, what you see in Jesus, in God, you'll see in me. What you do with God, you'll do with me. And we often imagine, take my yoke upon you. We often imagine it to be a single yoke, a heavy piece of wood that Jesus was going to give me. But in fact, it was a wooden cross piece that fastened over the necks of two animals and attached to a plough or a cart, as Braden described to us. It was always to be shared by two animals and was always to be doing service. Some very good points there when it comes to taking Jesus' yoke upon us. All too often we think it's me. I've got to do it all in the Christian life. Jesus says, no. Give it to me. We're going to do this. We're going to pull this load together. We're going to work together. And then what is the yoke for? What is the intention of our walk with Jesus? It's to do service. It's to pull a plough or to pull a cart. And Jesus says, here in these words, he's saying, be with me. Be with me. Don't do it alone. Don't walk alone. Be with me. What burdens are these he's talking about? It might be the pain of our sins. And sometimes with me, I'm not sure with you, but when I think of what Loren Pratt is doing at times, I shudder and I feel with anxiety, with the weight of it. Jesus said, no, Loren, don't you feel that? Take the yoke, be with me. Or it might be a broken heart. My heart's hurting this morning a bit because a very dear friend of mine, I'm going to her funeral this afternoon. She worked at Midland Mills and she worked for 3 years on a Monday night, a happy heart and a happy person, and we shared a few jokes and a few laughs, and she's got a beautiful giggle. She passed away. And I don't have to feel that pain alone, because Jesus says, hey, there's two of us together. There's two of us together. It might be the loss of a loved one. It might be the weariness of not knowing how to make that car payment. I talked to a lady this week out at Ellenbrook Mills who said, Loren, I just don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm $59,000 behind my house payment. And I just said, I don't know. We just pray. And I prayed with her there and then on the spot out there in the shadows while the meal service was going on. A very real pain. But Jesus says, don't bear that on your own. Take my yoke upon you. It might be that you can't afford to buy kids' clothes for school. Whatever it is we go through, Jesus says, be with me. Be with me in your everyday, ordinary life, because my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Let me pull the load with you. Hard for Loren Pratt to preach, because Loren Pratt doesn't live it all the time. I even forgot it yesterday, would you believe? Even forgot it yesterday. The list is endless of where we need Jesus in our everyday life, and we try to carry it all by ourselves. Jesus was also talking about the law in this passage as well when he referred to this. And he's saying that all too often we make many rules, and outward service and observances overshadow what true righteousness, true grace really looks like. Jesus says, don't focus on the law, focus on me, I will give you rest. As we walk with Jesus, we learn humility. We learn to offer our burdens, our lives, to release, to hope, to have faith again, because Jesus is right beside us pulling the load. We learn to offer our yoke to others who are weary and give them rest. And that's the whole art of witnessing. That's the whole art of sharing our faith. It's not what we preach, it's who we are. And our life cry should be saying to our friends, our loved ones, be with me as I'm with Jesus. Be with Jesus because he's with me. I want to ask you, as the conclusion of our quarter's sermons, to do an inventory of how you're going at being with Jesus. I've got 9 questions that will come up on the board. One is, do I choose to fully believe and love Jesus as my Saviour? 2, do I give a daily part of my life to Jesus? Do I live honestly and with integrity? Am I patient when I'm treated unfairly? Are my thoughts and my actions morally clean through the grace of Jesus? Has God changed my heart to be more generous with my resources? Am I consistently kind? Do I understand that I am spiritually lost without Jesus? And do I share my faith proactively and kindly? There are 9 points that I ask in closing of our whole series on the commands of Jesus, and you'll notice that Jesus' commands hit every of those points over the quarter that we've been preaching in this series. But it's something great to have as an inventory to keep checking out of our lives, and I know that you're probably going to need this, so I'll try and find time to write it down on a hard copy and leave it in the foyer for you just to grab and take, because it's a really good summary of what the Christian walk with Jesus is all about. This morning, if you've missed it, through Braden's sharing, through my sharing this morning, I want to close with this thought. and I think it summarises my whole sermon. I'm not sure if it's on the screen or not, but it's Matthew 11:28-30 in the Message translation. And I think Eugene Peterson says it in a beautiful way. And see what you think about it. It talks about grace in a beautiful way in the middle of it. I'll share it with you. Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take real rest. Walk with me and work with me, and watch how I do it. Learn from the unforced rhythms of grace. That's what got me when I read that this morning. Learn from the unforced rhythms of grace. I want to preach on that. I won't lay anything heavy or gritting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. I think our passage we've just said is summarised beautifully by him. I'll read it again to you. Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Come to me and get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn from the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy on you or ill-gritting on you. Keep company with me, and you will learn to live freely and lightly.